Hello, and welcome to the Brutal Iron Gym podcast, where our goal is to cut through the BS and deliver the brutal truth about topics related to health and happiness. Today's podcast number 1562. The topic is nutrition, and the title is How Eating More Can Help You Lose Body Fat. Hopefully that got you interested. Who wouldn't like that? Eat more food and get leaner. So I want to tell a story a little bit and let you know kind of one of my clients, what they're going through and how we're going to help them by actually having them eat more. Yeah. So the client is super lean. They're an elite powerlifter, and but they could step on stage and win like a women's physique show anytime she wanted. I would love her to do that because that's just fun and cool, and why not do that? But it's not really her passion right now, so she likes the powerlifting, so that's what we're working on. And she's very active, very, very active. She's just naturally a person who moves a lot and kind of never sits still. She has an active job. She's on her feet a lot throughout the day. She works out 4 to 5 times a week, plus extra activities, which might be, hikes or going for walks or doing extra things in the water. She lives in kind of in a beach area, so she does a lot of water activities. Now, we've been talking, and she was noticing that she's gaining some body fat, and she wasn't quite sure what to do. So since we started working together, she's pretty much been doing her nutrition on her own. Now, we've kind of talked here and there, and any time that we felt like training recovery was kind of questionable, we would touch on nutrition. But she's been managing her nutrition on her own. Now, she's noticing she's starting to gain some body fat, so we started talking a little bit about food again. And what we found was that she's only eating about 2,000 calories a day. That is not enough. Not enough for her muscle mass, her activity level. It's absolutely not enough. So it's chronic kind of under-eating. So she's been under-eating for a long time, years. But it's kind of sneaky because she's been under-eating not a lot, to the point where it was so under-eating that she couldn't work out, she couldn't maintain daily energy and stuff. It was just enough that the body was chronically a little underfed all the time. Now, she was also ridiculously very consistent with it. So she was always slightly in a deficit, with rarely, maybe once a month, would she actually go over her normal calories. I mean, very rarely. So most people, they gain body fat. They have body fat because of inconsistent eating. From under-eating, usually during the day, and then overeating usually at night. Now, you might say, my calories are the same, but your activity's not. So if you're active during the day and you're eating little bits, and then you're inactive at night and you're eating more, you have more of an extreme than what you'd recognize, is because during the day you're using so many more calories, so what you're eating, doesn't match more than what you think. And then at night, if you're not doing anything, what you're eating doesn't match as much as you think in the other direction. So most people have body fat because of inconsistent eating. When the body is underfed, it's stressed. It has to use resources into a deficit. Then when the body's overfed, it wants to replace those resources, but actually store up more. So it wants to store up extra for protection. In case it ever has to use its resources again, it doesn't want to be caught without any resources. So it wants to put back more than what it used, just in case next time it has to use more than what it used. Makes sense, right? So if I spend $1,000 and somebody's going to give me $2,000, I wouldn't just take $1,000 to replace $1,000 I spent. I'd be like, yeah, I'll take extra just in case, right? So if we're underfed, our body works its way into a deficit. Then when we're overfed, our body stores its way into a surplus. That's how we get body fat formation. So since this client was always in a deficit, not a huge one, but definitely a deficit, that's why they're super freaking lean all the time. But since she was super consistent with her food, there would have been very limited times where the body would have been able to store extra. This is why she, again, was super lean. However, life always comes and gets in the way. So she's recently had a lot of change of job, change in moving, and she started dating. So, okay, now we see there's a lot more kind of challenges to consistency of food. So she might have increased inconsistency. So she's having more moments of surplus than she used to have. This has led to increases in muscle tissue. She's noticed she's gotten like more muscular, but it also added to fat tissue. So initially the surpluses, the excess, would have gone towards underfed muscle and joint recovery. So initially you feel stronger, you look leaner, you even have more muscle mass, and everything feels great. But once the muscle and joint recovery has recovered, then the excess would start converting over to body fat. And that can show up on the outside of the thighs, like the saddlebag area. Maybe a little bit soft on the bottom edge of the glutes. Maybe a little soft under the belly button. And that's what the client's starting to see. They're starting to see small body fat gains. Now, the initial thought we all would think is, oh my God, I have to eat less. I'm getting fat. I have to eat less. That is not the answer. The answer, the real fix is to regain consistency. Decrease the deficits and the surpluses. Try to normalize the calories to better match your activity level. So you want to track what you're eating with a nutrition tracking app of some kind and start to become more consistent with calories in and calories out. Now, that doesn't mean we eat the same every day because we don't move the same every day. If you train regularly, 4 or 5, whatever times a week, 3 times a week, 6 times a week, whatever it is, but you have days where you work out and exercise, and you have days you don't. That's a big caloric difference between those 2 days. So on training days, you want to reduce the deficit that's being caused by training. So you actually want to eat a little bit more. But then on non-training days, you don't want to have too much of a surplus, so you have to eat a little bit less. So you want to reduce the deficit on training days that's causing the increased desire for the body to store body fat on the surpluses in the non-training days. So that will decrease the resulting body fat formation when you have extra food on date nights, or you go out and you're out and about with a significant other and maybe you eat a big meal when you normally would spread those calories out, so there's a momentary surplus right there. The more we normalize our foods on all other moments, the less the inconsistencies of dating moments and social events really impact us. So when you want to lose body fat, but you feel that you're already in a restrictive, controlled amount of food, you're like, man, I can't freaking eat any less. This is already as less as I can eat, Typically, that's the issue, is people recognize I can't eat less, or I've continued to eat less and it hasn't worked. Maybe I feel like absolute crap. I'm having huge binging cravings and cycles. Nothing's going well. My body hurts. I just feel miserable. I can't possibly eat less. Well, you're right. and thankfully, the answer isn't to eat less. The answer is to eat more on your active days, and then just control how much you're eating on your inactive days. The goal is to reduce the caloric swing you have from day to day. You want to create more consistency. The more consistency you have, the leaner you will be. It's not the less calories you eat, the leaner you are. It's the better you match calories in versus calories out. That is how you get leaner. Now, typically with clients, if you talk about calorie cycling, all that is just a fancy word for eating more when you move more and eat less when you move less. So training days, eat more, and non-training days, eat less. That's caloric cycling. That's it. So typically I have clients, they're usually somewhere between a 200 to 400 calorie range difference between training and non-training days. Now, there are clients who are outside of that range for sure. And there are special cases and things where we're doing things specifically for them for a reason. But a good general starting place, if we just kind of want to set up some parameters and go through some numbers. If you want to learn more about the numbers, which I'd encourage you to do, is listen to podcast 1232. You can find it on our website, www.pearlirongym.com. Podcast 1232 is a nutrition podcast titled Start Here. It'll tell you step by step how to set up your own nutrition plan. So, lovely. Pretty awesome resource. Now, what we can do is just give a general idea, okay? is if we take our target body weight. Now, this isn't the one where, like, if you have veins in your abs, if you don't currently have, visible abs, but a body weight where you would feel happy at. So you're at where you are now, and you want to get to this next weight, and then maybe once you got there, maybe you'd want to clean up a little bit more, something like that. So if you weigh 200 pounds and you'd like to get to 150, you might want to try like 175. Pick that, get there first, then go to 150. If you're already kind of at the weight you want to be, but you're just noticing you're soft, then just use the weight you're at. But take your body weight times 13. Okay? So, for example, if somebody weighs 160 pounds, and they like weighing 165 pounds, they're like, I look good, I feel good, I just have a little extra fat pockets, I'm a little tired some days, but I don't really want to lose weight because I am happy with where I'm at. So 160 pounds times 13 is 2,080. Then what we typically do, and this isn't the case always, but here's just something you can throw out over a podcast when you're talking to who knows how many people. So is you would say, okay, on training days, I'm going to eat 10% more than that. And then on non-training days, I'm going to eat 10% less. So 10% of 2,080 is 208. So the training day would be 2,208. We're going to round that to just 2,200. So we did our body weight times 13. Then we add 10%. We round it to a number that makes sense to our brain. And then that's the training day number. So 2,200 in this example. Non-training days at 10% less. So I'll do the 2,080, the body weight times 13, minus 10% is 1,872. We're going to round that to 1,900 because that's a weird number. So that gives us 2,200 calories on training days and 1,900 calories on non-training days. Now, no one can hit the exact number on like every single day. So you're not going to hit exactly 2,200. So I usually have people go plus or minus 100. So training days, you would have 2,100 to 2,300 in this example. So it's body weight times 13. You add 10% to that number, round it off to something that makes sense, and then your range is going to be plus or minus 100 from that number. So for us, this calculation was 160 times 13 is 2,080. We added 10%. Then that gave us a number around 2,200, if I'm doing all my math correctly. And then we do plus or minus 100 for that. So yes. So that will give you a general idea of what to do with your calories. And again, you can listen to podcast 1,232 for more information about how to set all that up, how to set up protein, how to set up meal distribution, what are the best foods, all the next steps. But if we're looking at calories, this is the idea of what we can do. Is body weight times 13, eat 10% more than that on training days, eat 10% less than that on non-training days. And then you just adjust based on what you see. If your weight goes down but you didn't want it to, add a little bit, add maybe 100 to each number for the next week or two and see how that works. If your weight goes up but you didn't want it to, subtract 100 from each number, and hold on to that for 2 weeks. But the idea is you want to reduce undereating and overeating. That is the issue. So if you're gaining body fat and you're like, I don't really know what's happening. Like I feel like I eat well. Like I don't feel like I overeat. I feel like I eat the right amount of food, but I'm just noticing some body fat gains. Typically, what the problem is that you're actually undereating. You're undereating too much on some days, and then the momentary surpluses are causing the increased body fat storage. So it's good to get everything dialed in so that way on your active days, you're not in too much of a deficit that then is causing you to store body fat on your non-active days. So that's the main issue for people is just inconsistency in food. There's too much undereating and overeating back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. When we're undereating, the body's stressed and it has to expend resources. Then when we overeat, it says, holy crap, I'm going to replace the resources I spent and protect myself with extra. And that's body fat formation. So if you notice your body's doing extra protecting by storing extra body fat more than normal, then that means you must be doing extra deficits than normal, right? Or there's more frequent surpluses compared to the deficits. There's something that's off in the matching of deficits and surpluses. So the consistency of your food is off, not the amount. That's why eating less won't help. Okay? So, listen to podcast 1232, and that'll tell you step by step how to set up calories, protein, distribution, all that stuff. Now, if you want any help, I can do all that with you. We do have our nutrition coaching service, which is just $100 a month. I tell you the numbers to hit, calories, protein, meal timing, all that. You track in an app. I log into your app, and I tell you every single day, every single meal, this was good, this was not good, adjust here, do this. If you have questions about food, you ask me questions, I answer them. So you have one-on-one attention every single week, and I go through everything you do for $100 a month. It's stupidly cheap, but I like it, and I love being able to help people, so I'm happy to do it. But that nutrition coaching service is an option. And then we have our full service, which is where I write your training programs and your nutrition, and that's only $200 a month. So if you want help, the services are there. If you don't want to pay anything, you don't have to. Podcast 1232 will tell you step by step how to do it for free for yourself. The reason why I like offering the services is if you don't have the time, or if it feels a little overwhelming and you just want to make sure you have everything right. That's where the services can help. But you don't owe me a dime. You don't have to pay anything. You can get help and learn how to do it by podcast 1232. Okay. So that's this client's story. So that's what we're going to work on, is just kind of normalizing a little bit more. I feel like they're under eating on their training days, so we're going to eat a little bit more on their training days. And I guarantee that that's going to help them reduce the amount of fat storage that they're noticing. And it's actually going to help them be leaner, have better recovery from workouts, and they're going to lose that body fat pretty quick by actually eating more. And that's what's kind of crazy and going to be hard for them to understand, is they have to eat more to lose body fat, which is a huge surprise. But hopefully through today's podcast, through this story, you can hear and understand why. If you have any questions, or if you ever need anything, if you have any feedback or suggestions for the podcast, anything, just let me know at my email at brittlirongym@gmail.com. If you like our podcast, please share it. When you share it, let people know we answer questions for free. Thank you to those who donate to support the podcast. It does have a high hosting cost every year. I give an hour to it every day, and we want to keep it for free. So thank you to the donations. You can donate on our website at www.brittlirongym.com. There's options for a one-time donation, monthly donation, yearly donation, even $5 a month. It does add up, and it does help. So thank you to those who do that. And then if you like the information we present in our podcast, you can find more from us on our social media channels. I post on Instagram every day and a lot more on YouTube, so check us out on both places. Find us and follow us under the name Brittle Iron Gym. As always, I hope this was helpful, and thank you for listening.